Hi, my name is Krenko, and this is my corner. On our very first YouTube video, we're going to do an EDH deck tech for Krenko, Mob Boss. He's a legendary Goblin Warrior creature. For 2 and 2 red, he has 3/3 and an activate ability of tap, put X red 1/1 Goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of goblins you control. In this deck, we're going to go as wide as possible with as many goblins as we can to overrun our opponents as quickly as possible. Let's get right into the deck with our artifacts. Soul Ring, get us mana ramp as quick as we can. Skull Clamp, to get our draw going as using the tokens as our fodder. Lightning Greaves, to have Shroud and Haste onto Krenko as soon as possible. Heraldic Banner gives us the buff that we need, as well as some ramp. Hazoret's Monument gives our red creatures a little bit of cheap cost, as well as giving us some draw. Helm of the Host allows us to do multiple activations of Krenko, and doing that each turn quicker. Goblin Charbelcher gives it a little fun in the deck while doing extra damage based on number of goblins or lands that we reveal. And Coat of Arms allows the goblins to get very big very quickly. In our sorceries, we have Blasphemous Act in case we have some pesky things to deal with. Cathartic Reunion gives us some draw, as well as Wild Guess. And Faithless Looting to do it twice. With Burnt to Stake, we use as many of our creatures that we can to deal damage to other people, but in large masses. Hordling Outburst gives us some extra goblins onto the battlefield, and Mob Justice does us extra damage to one player or creatures based on that number. Dragon Fodder again gives us some more goblins onto the battlefield, and Goblin Warstrike does the same for only 1 mana. Vandalblast to get rid of all the pesky artifacts that we don't have. And of course my command, Krenko's command, gives some more goblins. Reforge the Soul to refill our hand since this deck will go that quickly. And Relentless Assault to do 1 extra phase. Goblin Grenade for a quick little 1 cost, 5 damage. Going into our instance, we have a few. We have Massive Raid, gives us some extra damage. Battle Hymn to give us some ramp in our pool, to give us some more creatures quicker. Chaos Warp to deal with something pesky, at a bit of a gamble. And the Thrill of Possibility to get some more cards into our hand, which red always needs. Into our enchantments now, we have Quest for the Goblin Lord, gives our goblins a little bit of buff. Warstorm Surge, because every time those goblins enter the battlefield, we're hitting all of our opponents. Impact Tremors, again, same thing, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, we're doing 1 damage to each opponent. This card will end games. And then with Raid Bombardment, when they do that attacking phase, we'll do the damage even before we do attacking. Goblin War Drums, people never see this card coming. It's basically Menace. Outpost Siege, give us the extra play, or whenever it leaves the battlefield, do the extra damage. Fervor, give all of them haste. Blood Moon, well, just gotta shut down those non-basic lands. Going into our creatures, our only non-goblin, Perfrost, God of the Forge, because, well, why not? Then we'll get into Goblin Sharpshooter to do the quick little pings. Goblin Bushwhacker, which of course we're going to kick to give him as much buff as possible for his cheap. Goblin King as our lord, give all of our goblins that +1/+1, and Mountain Walk. Goblin Pile Driver because, well, blue. And Goblin Wacky. Any goblin permanent card from your hand on the battlefield just by dealing damage, yeah, we're going to do that. Goblin Tinkerer to get rid of an artifact that's giving us problems, as well as doing that damage to ourselves, which is fine. Brash Taunter, because, well, we'll just use this as a strong indestructible goblin, as well as if we have to, we can Blasphemous Act himself and do that damage to someone else. Goblin War Driver, simply for the battle cry. Goblin Matron, because she gets us anything we need. She is our tutor for whatever needs are going on at the exact moment. Siege Gang Commander, to get as many goblins as we can, as quick as we possibly can. And then to sacrifice any goblin to do that 2 extra damage. Bloodmark Mentor gives all of our goblins that first strike. Skirk Fire Marshal, he does have protection from red, but being able to tap the 5 goblins to deal 10 damage to each creature and each player is a gamble, but in most cases that's giving 30 damage for us. Squee the Immortal because, well, he's immortal. The little Conspicuous Snoop because he allows us to reveal the top card of our library, which in high chances is always a goblin. and be able to use the abilities of those goblins. Pick Shalikman, because we do when all of our goblins die, we do that extra damage. Plus she has that ability in there to sacrifice a goblin to create more goblins. Relic Robber, because, hey, take our trash. We don't want it. Also, it does damage to you. Goblin Instigator, to give us that extra goblins. Goblin Chirurgeon, which is great because you sacrifice a goblin for 0 to regenerate a target creature. So when they go after Krenko, we have a backup plan. Goblin Trashmaster basically gives us a buff, and we can sacrifice any goblin to destroy an artifact. Skirk Prospector, we can sack a goblin at any time to give us that red mana we need. Battle Squadron, because sometimes flying is necessary, and it's equal number of creatures we control, so it does give us some ability to have something in the air, which goblins tend to lack. Tuk Tuk the Explorer, because having haste and then getting a 5/5 Goblin Golem is always great. Goblin Crater Maker gives us those options of either doing the 2 damage to target creature, or destroying a target colorless non-land permanent. This helps take care of some other issues, Karn, Ugin, things like that. Rummaging Goblin just gives us the ability to get the draw when we need it, or if our deck is slowing down. Dockside Extortionist, because, well, treasure tokens, they just help. And in a deck where you need as much mana as you can as quick as possible, this really does it. Treasure Nabber, because, well, you tap your Soul Ring, I'll take your Soul Ring, so thanks. Horde of Boggarts. Well, it's equal number of red permanents I control, and everything in this deck is red. And it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, so having built-in menace is always a plus. Chancellor of the Forge, because getting goblins on turn 1 makes the deck even faster. And then you get the number of X/1/1 goblins on the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures you control. So if we only have 3, we get 3 more quickly. Goblin Lookout allows us to sack a goblin to give all goblins +2/+0 until end of turn. If you just have an extra token kicking around, it just gives a nice little buff to win the game. Goblin Chieftain, another of our lords, has haste, and other goblins get haste and +1/+1. Gem Palm Incinerator allows us to have the cycling if we need it, and if we cycle, it deals the X damage, whereas number of goblins on the battlefield. So if we cycle him and we already have a bunch of Gem Palm or goblins on the battlefield, we're going to do some serious damage. And our last creature, Goblin Warchief. They keeps our goblins cheaper, and they each have haste. Now you might not see any trample in the deck, but that's okay because the deck's fast enough where we haven't had any issues with that. Going into our land base, we have 32 lands. Ghost Quarter, allow to sacrifice it, destroy a pesky land we're having problems with. Castle Embereth gives us that buff we need, and we just want that little extra damage to go in. We have Smoldering Crater, as well as Forgotten Cave to give us the cycling we need to get the drawing going. And then 28 mountains. Of course, going full art as much as we can, or the nicer mountains as possible, or all the foil ones if we can. I appreciate you guys coming with us today as we go into our very first YouTube video. Thank you for stopping by, and please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we're going to keep going down this journey of creating more decks and doing deck techs for you. I appreciate all your time, and thank you for stopping by.